All right, guys, so what we're doing today is pretty much the same thing we did yesterday. We're just continuing on with it. As you can see there, the first one should look very similar to what we did yesterday. Here, evaluate the expression for x equal to -4 and y equal to 5. So what we're doing today is, again, some of the similar stuff. So we're plugging in the values for x and y. So when we plug this in, on top I'm going to have -5 squared, and on bottom I'm going to have -5, not -5, we'll just have 5. And on bottom we're going to have 5 minus -4. Now when we plug that in, we can do the fraction key and plug those in. Now if you want to put parentheses around each one of these numbers, that's perfectly fine. So I can put a set of parentheses around this, around the 5, and around the -4. Just if you want to make sure none of the signs change or nothing goes a little weird, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And once you get that typed in and hit enter, it'll give us our answer. Now if I do it by hand, 5 squared, 5 times 5 is 25. Well, here a negative makes a positive, and 5 plus 4 will give us 9. And I think the calculator will say 25 over 9. Yes? Now, it won't reduce because there's not a number in common with 25 and 9 that will simplify down. Would y'all agree with that? But that's it. That's all we have to do for this one here. Questions on this? So what would we do for this here? So we would have 4 times what? 3/4, because that's the value of s, minus 1/2 or 1/2. Because the value of s is 3/4, the value of t is 1/2. So we plug those values in, and now we simplify. So in the calculator, you can do 4 parentheses. Our fraction, 3/4, close parentheses, minus, open parentheses, 1/2, close parentheses, and hit enter. Now, if we do this by hand, 4 and the 4 here, these here simplify out. Leaving us with 3 minus 1/2. 3 minus 1/2 is 2 and 1/2, or if we have it as a mixed fraction, 5/2, or 2.5. These all the same thing. And the big idea math should be able to read the difference unless it specifically says which form it wants. Because unless it says round to the nearest decimal place, if it says that, we need 2.5. If it says leaves it as an improper fraction, 5/2 or in fraction form, we get these here. Questions on this here? You good with all this so far? You ready to move on to the next one, or are you good? Okay. Let's look at this one here. So we have 1 minus the absolute value of a divided by b. So we have 1 minus the absolute value of -2/3 divided by, can we plug absolute values into the calculator? No. So we have to do that one first. So what is the absolute value of -2/3? Now can we plug it in? Yep. Now we can plug it in. So if I were to do this by hand, how many of y'all know how to divide a fraction by a number or another fraction? Well, not really. I don't know how to divide by, I don't know how to actually do division. What do? We change it from division to multiplication and flip the second one. So it becomes, so realistically, we don't know how to divide fractions. We know that we change it from division to multiplication and we flip. Now, when we do this here, what we end up getting is 2 times 1. We multiply the tops, and I really just get 2. I'll put it there, times 1. And on bottom, we have 2 times 3. I just rearranged them. Now, I rearranged them because we have a 2 on top and bottom. What happens when we have something being multiplied on top and bottom that's the same? Since this is being multiplied and this is being multiplied, these are the same. They cancel out. Yes. They simplify to 1. So what we get is 1 minus 1/3, which is 2/3. Y'all get that? That's it. Any questions on any of this here? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got
4/3? Let me see. So when we do this here, the absolute values aren't going to be the same as parentheses. So what we have here, so when we type this in, we have to do the absolute value first, because the absolute value of negative 2/3 is 2/3, yes? When we put parentheses, it left it as negative 2/3. So when we came down here at the last step to subtract, it saw it as plus because the negative is negative. So that's the slight difference there, okay? So any other questions on this here? We good with this here? Yes? Let's do this one here. So what's our value of S? So we have 5 times S. What is S? 1.5. Minus the square root of R. What is R? Divided by 6. Does anybody know what the square root of 9 is off the top of your head? What times it? Yep, 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. Now we'll need to do 5 times 1.5, or you can do that in the calculator. Really, at this part here, you could type that in as we see it, and it'll tell you what the answer is. Because that would be 7.5. And 7.5 minus 0.5 would give us 7. Is that what y'all got? Because again, that's just going off order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Y'all have all heard of that before? PEMDAS. Any questions on this here? We good with this here? Let's do probably one more, because I feel like y'all are getting the hang of this, yes? Is this pretty much the exact same thing we just did? But what's different this time? There's 3. Is this any different than what we just did? No, we just have to add one more. So what we'll do here is 2 parentheses 9. So what's the value of A? 2 over 3 squared minus 2. Value of B is 9 plus 3 times. And when I type this in, I'd type those parentheses in. I'd go parenthesis happy, because having those parentheses in there is not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt anything. It'll just make sure, especially when we square things, if this is negative, to make sure they come out positive. I'll agree with negative 52. Yes? Sweet. So a lot of this stuff we can plug straight into the calculator. I just went on and worked it out by hand. Do most of these steps make sense? Sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Do y'all need to see another example of doing one of these here? We good with this here? Yes? Awesome. Then we'll just move on. So this right here, this isn't going to be something that's on the homework assignment, but it's a real world problem we can look at using tiles, tiling a floor. You want to tile a 10-foot square floor with these tiles that are twice as long as they are wide. With tiles that are twice as long as they are wide. Determine how many tiles you need to cover a floor when the tile's length is 2 feet. Twice as long as they are wide. What does that mean? Twice as long as they are wide. So if the width is 1, the length should be 2, because they're twice as long, yes? So if we're told that the length of this tile is 2, it means the width is 1. Twice as long as they are wide, so if 2, 1. So what we're going to go and do about this, because I've already looked at this problem, is we want to see how many tiles we're going to lay, yes? So we could try to go through and count up for the floor here, 10 foot by 10 foot. How many of y'all have done flooring or tried to put flooring down? Yes, at some point, some of y'all have done, or at least tiles with a picture, or tried to lay something out across a floor at some point. Because you normally don't have all that you need. Because if once you buy them, you normally want to buy, if I'm going to tile this entire floor, I'm not going to buy a few tiles and go back and keep buying. I want to buy enough for the whole floor, yes? And it wouldn't be too realistic to have a 2x1 tile and try to go along this wall and kind of mark off every single one, right? Because it's not going to be 100% accurate. Because unless I'm able to have a real steady hand and make sure that when I mark, I don't move it and everything else, yes? So that'd be a little difficult. Could I compare the areas? If I knew how much square footage this took up, and I knew how much this was total, could I figure out how many times that would fit in here? Wouldn't that be the same? So what is the area of a square for this here? It's 10 by 10, so area is base times height. So this would be 10 times, so what is the area of this here? So this area here would be what, 2 times, so what's its area? So each one of those has an area of 2 square units, and our whole floor, well, 2 square feet, and our whole floor is 100 square feet. So how many would I need? So I'm going to set it up as a ratio, and so you kind of see this here. And so especially when we go further on into Algebra 2 and other stuff, you'll see how this works. So for one tile, how much square footage is it? 2. And what are we wanting to know? We want to know how many tiles would cover 100, yes? Well, we can multiply both sides by 100. You probably have not done this before. Nope. This looks very brand new. So this is probably a little bit higher up, because what is happening over here? If I multiply this by 100, we multiply by the top of a fraction, yes? So that, you've done that before, yes? Multiplying by a fraction, number in a fraction? Justice here? Yes? No? Okay. Ends up being 100 over 2. These cancel, so x is 50. Really, we could have just divided 100 by 2 and we get the answer. This is just another way to show how we get the answer. One times 100 and 2 times x. Yes? I hate cross multiplying. The reason I hate cross multiplying is because in the long run, it works. It's a great way to do it. But really, here's what you're doing. When we cross multiply, because again, that is right, what you're doing is you're multiplying this side by 2 and 100. You're multiplying this side by 2 and 100. So we do 2 and 100 times 1/2. Well, it's on top, so 2 times 100 times 1 over 2. Well, what's 2 over 2? They cancel, don't they? So I'm left with 100 times 1. Over here, we do the same thing. We have x times 2. And then last but not least, we divide both sides by. And that's it. Now, these here are the same. But look what happened here. So the 2 was down here, yes? We multiplied and ended up getting here and we got rid of it, yes? And then what did we do? We divided and put it back where it was, didn't we? Here, I just multiplied by what's on this side. Same thing. So instead of multiplying both sides by the bottom, it does the same thing, just less steps. Does that make sense? And one of the reasons I really don't like cross multiplying is because in about 4 years, you're still going to remember cross multiplying, but you're not going to, it's going to become a little fuzzy what it is, and you're not going to do it with that. You'll do it with multiplying fractions. I've seen it happen multiple times. But that's all we're going to do with that there. All right? And I'm going to let y'all start the assignment, unless there's objections to that.